Welcome. I'm joined here by U.S. Representative for the state of Arizona Ann Kirkpatrick, who is campaigning for the U.S. Senate seat for the state of Arizona. Congresswoman, if you can tell us a little bit about your background. I know that you are a small business owner. You are also a former prosecutor and most recently, of course, a U.S. representative. So how would your experience benefit the state if elected into that seat, especially in comparison to, of course, Senator McCain, who has held that position for 30 years and is campaigning for his 6th term?
Well, that's very true, and he represents, what's wrong in Washington. That he's a prime example of that dysfunctional, out-of-touch Washington establishment. All of my work is for Arizona. I was born and raised in this state on the White Mountain Apache Nation, a small timber community, and over the years I've seen Arizona go through too many boom and bust cycles. My vision for Arizona is to build a strong, diverse, stable economy, and there are two important things to get that done. One is comprehensive immigration reform that includes the DREAM Act, and the other is building a world-class education system so we can have those educated workforce for the 21st century. I serve on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee and also agriculture, and two important economic sectors for Arizona, but I always put Arizona first.
How do you feel that your previous experience will come to the table in order to serve the platforms that you're going to be focusing on?
I took the Arizona values that I learned growing up here to Congress. I'm not a partisan games player. I'm there to get things done. And I work with my colleagues across the aisle because there are so many issues we're working on that are not partisan. For instance, I do a lot of work with veterans. So I want to thank all of your watchers out there who are veterans. Thank you for your service. But I travel all over the state, and I'm hearing from our veterans who've already paid the price. They've served our country, and yet they can't get the benefits that they've earned, especially in the tribal and the rural areas.
We are in a predominantly red state, so how do you feel as a representative of the Democratic Party, as well as how would you use that voice in order to come up with ways to combat the issues like you mentioned, which is education is something that you're going to pursue? Well,
Arizona's changing, but people tell me they want problem solvers. They want people who can go in there, work across the aisle, beyond party lines, and get things done. And they're frustrated, quite honestly, with the gridlock in Washington.
You said that for the state of Arizona, agriculture is really important, and we are pretty low rated for our education levels. So what are some of the things that you'd like to focus on in those arenas, but also in order to boost the economic growth, especially Yuma County, where we have a really high unemployment rate?
You do have high unemployment, and I spent this morning visiting some farms, going around talking with the farmers, and they really stressed upon me the importance of doing comprehensive immigration reform that includes a guest worker program. I went to the port of entry in San Luis and saw the long lines of cars and the long lines of people, and they were telling me what a struggle it is for some workers. They have to get to the border at 3 a.m. to go work, and so those are the kinds of problems that I'm interested in solving. But also water is a major issue. So, we saw what happened to California last year, and so with the drought, I mean, that's something that we really need to continue to work on. But I'll tell you quite honestly, I support the Farm Bill because I'm on the Agriculture Committee, but John McCain doesn't. And so that's a real distinction for people to think about as they're making the decision next November.
And when we did sit down with Senator McCain, he did express that his platforms, if reelected, would be water, but also wildfires as a result of the drought as well. So how would you approach it in a different manner?
Well, actually getting things done. And so we put together a collaboration of people to look at the wildfire issue. Again, nonpartisan, bipartisan, working across the aisle. We're actually able to come up with a national model that brings back the timber industry. They're part of that, creates jobs, creates forest health. And so I think the difference is the results that I've been actually able to get, and people will see that.
And in your time as a representative for the state, what are some of those things that you've gotten to accomplish that you're proud of today?
Well, Congressman Gosar and I have worked on some Arizona-specific legislation. Wildfire legislation is part of that. Then we've done some things to clear up titles on land exchanges. We did a major project over near the Copper Corridor that will create over 4,000 jobs. So, you know, it's actually getting those jobs to those areas, bringing back the timber industry, bringing back that diversification, making sure our farmers have the workforce that they need to have a thriving economy.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. That concludes our interview with Congresswoman Kirkpatrick, who is running for the U.S. Senate seat in this coming primary election. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. My pleasure.